So I had a guy contact me the other day and he needed a set of replacement headlights for his Honda headlight kit, but he only had one bar that went bad and he wanted to replace that bar himself, but he didn't know how to do the wiring on it or where to even try to get the material at to do it. So I figured, why not, let's do a short video on this, and maybe it'll help somebody that wants to keep a couple extra sets on hand for like a long weekend of riding, or maybe somebody that wants to wire up a bunch for their buddies and get some really cheap headlight kits. So let's take a quick look at what all you'll need, and then I'll show you exactly how we wire it up. So obviously you'll need two 7-inch LED light bars. We use one flood and one spot. You can use two spots, two floods, whatever you want to do. That's all up to you. We use a spot because it goes further out, and we use a flood because it goes wider. You use one of each on high beam. You have both, and it gives a pretty decent little light off. There is a ton of different little things you can get. I want to say they even make some now that's mixed. It's got part flood and part spot. I'm not 100% sure on that. You'll just have to do some looking. What I do know is when you order these 7-inch light bars, if you're replacing our lights out of our brackets, you'll make sure you have these studs. If you do not have the studs on there, they will not fit our brackets. They make some of these that's got bolts. Somehow they're wider. They measure 7 inches, but somehow they're wider. I don't know how they measure it, but the measurements are different. I do know that because they will not fit. You'll need a connector. That's just a three-prong connector. You can get these, you can bulk order these in places, but if you're just trying to do a couple sets, you can get them on Amazon and eBay. If you're wanting them kind of quick, I think Amazon's normally a little quicker than eBay. These connectors, it's got the solder in it. Cheapest place I've found those as far as getting them in mass quantities has been Amazon. You get 400 at a time for like 40 bucks. And we've tried to order them from Fastenal. We've tried to order them from a couple bulk supply companies out of California, and somehow Amazon still beats everybody's prices. Same thing with the heat shrink. You can't bulk order this in places, but you can also get it off Amazon. This heat shrink has a glue on the inside of it. So when you heat it up, the glue melts around all your connectors. Kind of just like a little extra layer of water protection. You'll need a set of diodes. And you can, once again, you can get all this stuff off eBay or Amazon. There is some places you can bulk order this, but unless you're trying to do a large quantity of this stuff, Amazon most of the time is your cheapest bet. You'll need a jumper wire. I think that's 16 or 18 gauge. I can't really remember. You'll need a set of wire cutters to kind of strip all your wire back. You'll need a heat gun. This is just a cheap Harbor Freight heat gun. And that's it. That's all you need. So let me set the camera up, and then we'll kind of do a quick video on exactly how I wire these up and what each of those wires actually go to. So as a quick little rundown before we actually get into trying to wire these things, this is how I wire them up. This clip part that clips into your factory harness has to be up. This wire here, starting from left going to right, that's your ground wire. The red wire is your low beam wire. The black wire is your high beam wire. So naturally your ground wire goes to both ground wires. Your red wire is your low beam wire, which ties into our spot. I know some people wire them spots, some people wire them floods. It's up to you. We tie it into our spot. Your diode goes into your spot, or into your low beam, and that's where your jumper wire comes in to tie it into your high beam. If you can see that little bitty gray line right there, you can probably see it on these even better. How it has the red tape up here where that gray line's at. That's your blocking side of this diode. This diode will let electricity flow this way. It will flow through here, but when the power is on your low beam, when it hits that little gray wall right there, it will not flow this way. So if you had an arrow, the arrow would go towards your low beam wire. So electricity will flow this way, but it will not flow the other way. That's how you have an actual true high beam and low beam. So when you turn them on low, they're not both on. I know a lot of people have asked dozens of times how we exactly make that work, and that's exactly how you make that work with that little blocking diode. So let me set the camera up and we'll do a quick video of me wiring this thing up from start to finish and maybe give you a better idea exactly how to do this. So take both the headlights, take a piece of heat shrink, and what I do is pull these little ends off. And once again, you can bulk order these headlights from different places out in California. You can order these headlights straight from China, and if you bulk order them from China, they will actually engrave your logo or whatever into the headlights. But I've always been a little scared to order them from China just because you don't really know exactly what you're getting, and the place we get these from is out of California, so I'm sure they order them from China, but I know they're coming from California. I can talk to that guy on the telephone, and I do know these have a Cree LED, where I have heard some of the ones that come from China will have Cree LEDs, and some of them will have a COB LED, which is a little cheaper LED. So I've just always been really nervous to order them from there. But if you're trying to mass produce these, you can look into that option. Now what I do, oops, drop the camera. So what I do, wire the ground together. Then we got to figure out which one of these is spots and which one of these is flood, so we know which one our low beam wire is. And that's our flood, so this would be our low beam. Let's see if I can position that camera a little better. Alright, so we might have the camera set a little better now. So we know with our clip facing up, we know that that's ground, low, and high. So I normally go ahead and twist all these up. We'll take our connector. These connectors have a little fat end and a little short end, so you know, watch that whenever you're trying to push everything together. So we shove our fat end down through there. We shove our ground wire in there, and you try to get it as deep as you can, so it's half the wire over here and half of it over there. That way when you melt it in, it's all nice and solid. So we know that's our low beam wire, and I've already twisted our low beam together. So once again, this time we're going to do the little skinny end through here because I need the extra room for the diode on this side. So we'll twist that together. Push that down in there. We'll take one of our diodes. Remember, little gray wire is your blocking side. It goes to your low beam wire. Or at least the way I wire it do. You can wire it backwards from that. It's just going to work backwards. So we know our high beam wire here. We need our jumper wire, which like I said is 16, 18 gauge. I'm not sure exactly what it is. We need to strip it out. Get it all twisted together. This would be our jumper wire, so our high beam actually works once we hit our high beam on. Now what you will have to do on this is you'll need a razor blade, and we cut part of that little fat end just about in half. We shove this through there, and then we come through. Since there's so much wire here, it's really tight fit. But if you get it started and you twist it in the direction that you wrapped that, you can actually get a really nice little fit on it. Boom. And then this would be the end that ties into your diode. And that's it. Now what we do, we take our heat gun and we just melt it all together. And it does take a few seconds to cool off. Another trick is if you are trying to replace just one light bar out of a set of lights, once you cut all of this heat shrink and everything off of it and get all the tape, if you reheat these connectors up, they'll just pull right apart. So once they get kind of solid looking, they're pretty solid, but if I heated them back up, they'll just pull right off, and you can replace one light bar and wire it back up and you're good to go. Another thing to look for, some of these connectors will have an extra little tit on the inside. If it has an extra tit on the inside, you'll need to cut that off before it actually plug up into your harness. And that's pretty much it. Now all I do is we take some electrical tape and we tape all the way across it. And once again, it's not 100% needed, it's just a little extra layer of protection there. And normally what I do is I go all the way to the top and then I start coming back down a little bit. That way the heat shrink actually holds it in place. So if you ended it right here and your heat shrink was right here, that tape could start to unravel. But if you bring it all the way back down and your heat shrink ends right there, that tape can never come loose because it's held together down inside there. And sometimes this can be a pain to get it all back together, especially around that diode. Sometimes you got to work at it. And then normally I get it right about there. We'll heat it all up, melt all that glue in, and you're done. So that's pretty much it. It's not a whole lot to it. Some of this stuff can get expensive if you're trying to mass produce a bunch at one time, but if you're just trying to do a couple, like I said, look around. Maybe Amazon, eBay, maybe you can catch some good deals on some stuff. There is wholesale websites. If you start Googling this stuff, you can find stuff out in California where they will wholesale it to you, but most of the time you have to order in bulk. Most of the time you have to order these headlights a couple hundred at a time to get them at a bulk pricing. So decide what you want to do, and maybe this video helps you out. But that's going to be it for this one, so until next time.